Let's talk about the great wealth transfer, why this is important today, and how we can be set up for more sales, more opportunities as we go forward. The purpose and what we hope to accomplish today is to show you a better way to acquire more business and more clients, and using estate planning to complement your business by adding superior value. We're here to help bring insight to the subject. We're also going to give you some access to tools that will help support you in marketing estate planning services and give you an exciting new way to build a vertical in your real estate business with the intention of becoming the lifetime realtor, as we call the family realtor, the realtor of choice, unlocking the secrets to prospecting, generating qualified, unlimited, and perpetual leads, and driving income. And that's really what it's all about. So who am I? Why are you even here today? Financial advisor, realtor. I've educated, trained, motivated hundreds of agents in the financial sector, working with the realtor sector now on how to prospect more effectively with some unique tools that really have gone by the wayside. And I think it's important to recognize that sometimes we need to think out of the box. We need to get away from sometimes all of this technology that we see. And we need to be careful about where we spend our money while it comes to prospecting more efficiently. So that's who I am, just to give you some insight as to who you're listening to. I think that helps you. So here's the introduction to this great wealth transfer. Now, on the left, you see this fellow with a briefcase. This really indicates a generational gap in wealth from one family passing on generationally to the next. It always seems that there's a tremendous loss in value, whether it's property value or account value, money in general. And then the next generation has to start again from square one and try to rebuild upon that. Now, over $84 trillion in assets will shift generations by the year 2045. That's 20 years from now. That leaves most of us a great opportunity with our businesses to still make a good impact. Real estate is a core part of this transfer, and the majority will move from baby boomers to Gen X and millennials. Now, the question really remains here: are you positioning yourself into this market? And if you're not, I think you're here to learn how you may be able to do that. So let's talk about wealth first. What is wealth? Wealth equals more than just money. It includes what you own and what you leave behind. It affects your life and it affects the lives of others. Now, when we talk about wealth, we need to understand there's different types. There's tangible wealth. We know what that is, being cash, savings, investments, and the like. Real estate, residential, land, commercial, vehicles, valuables, jewelry, digital assets, cryptocurrency, non-fungible tokens, media, intellectual property, businesses, contracts, accounts receivable, royalties, and much, much more make up tangible wealth. So what makes up intangible wealth? These intangibles impact future generations. They consist of your legacy that can include values, moral values, ethical values, emotional values that are passed along, or family traumas, individual traumas that get passed from generation to generation. They can be rich, they can be shallow, or they can be harmful, but they do shape the identity of heirs. It's often misunderstood, generational wealth is, because we commonly hear the term generational wealth building. Hey, I want to do something. I want to buy something. It's important for me to really make an impact and improve the next generation, most of the time people are thinking about money. But it's more than that. As we alluded to earlier, it's wisdom, it's your values, it's your emotional maturity. The thing about generational wealth, though, is that this must be intentionally built and passed on. That's a big step. We could talk about generational wealth all day long, but unless some plans are put in place and act upon them to intentionally build that and pass it, that generational wealth will not happen or may not happen. And you'll find yourself like that man with a briefcase falling off a cliff and then needing to redo and rebuild their own lives from scratch. They couldn't build off the shoulders of their prior generations. And one thing to note here is that a legacy can outlast money. And I think that's pretty important to recognize, that if you do have a positive legacy to pass, that it becomes easier for the family to start building and creating their own wealth because of that foundation. Now, there are steps to take when we consider transferring wealth. First, preserving wealth. And if people are looking at the market today, I know I'm keeping myself very busy. I do not like to see these drastic drops in the market. However, I'm prepared to help families get through this hard time and show them ways to preserve their wealth. That's step one. Minimize financial loss through financial planning, estate planning, and tax planning. Step two, preserve those assets and pass positive emotional and cultural assets. Here's an important pie chart. This is something that has really bothered me for quite some time. Who are the traditional key advisors to families today? And if you look at this pie chart, you will see that the leading group of advisors are someone like me, financial advisors. As I said, I'm a realtor, but I have decades worth of experience in that blue column, followed by estate planning attorneys, accountants, and CPAs. Trust officers represent 10%, philanthropic advisors, and other, which really may be family offices. But what do you notice, or who do you notice that's missing from this pie chart, from being a key advisor? Real estate professionals. And I see no reason why real estate professionals should be exempt from having their own color within this pie chart. And I'm hoping that you are beginning to see that there is room for the realtor to enter this advisor space and be a key influencer in the decision making that the family has. Because let's face it, assets do include property, doesn't it? Property has a value, needs to be preserved, protected, passed, needs to be recognized, that an advisor should be overlooking that property. Now, in real estate, I am sure many of you may have come across people who asked you questions about their estate. Have you ever had a question from a client on estate planning that you couldn't answer? And I find that when I'm speaking to real estate agents, they know very, very, very little about estate planning. And it's really such a shame because, as I've always said, the more that you know about what it is you don't sell, the more you'll sell of what it is you do sell. And so the more knowledge you have about estate planning, the more opportunities you will have that will lead conversations down the path to do what it is that you really do best, and that is real estate sales. So that's why estate planning is critical. The knowledge that it brings to the client will position you in a much higher authority position. And you should be included in this advisory channel, which real estate agents were never really included before. And I think what we're trying to do here, and you're included in it, is to put real estate agents and real estate professionals, realtors, on the map. So where can you begin? Where do you begin a discussion? Where do you begin a conversation, tying yourself into a family at a very deep level? Well, the natural relationship is the intersection between real estate and estate planning. And if I had to ask you what that relationship is, the commonality, what do you think you would say? It is probate, folks. Better said, though, and for much better reason, it's the avoidance of probate. Understanding probate and probate avoidance can be two separate topics. Many realtors work the probate market. Probate market, as you may know it, is what happens when a homeowner passes away and now the estate is in a state of flux. And then real estate agents have to step in and try to untangle the mess and try to figure out how to get involved with the family after the fact. Well, I'm just here to share with you that there's a much easier way, and hopefully we'll be able to share that with you as you get involved or engage more with us as we go along. So what is probate and when is it required? These are the important pieces you need to know. It's important for you to learn about probate, the rules, the threshold amounts, if you will, how probate is put together in your state particularly, because it is a state-by-state decision-making process regarding assets that you may have or your client may have that will have to pass through probate. But if you know how to avoid probate properly, you may be able to guide through facilitation and some knowledge, just sharing information with your client. Now, I'll say that you do not need to be an attorney. You do not need to be any kind of licensed legal professional, just to tell people and show people how to do the right thing in life. Now, why this matters to you or me is important. The first thing that happens when you learn more about estate planning is it will boost your competency. It will boost your skills, and it will allow you to open more conversations. And let's face it, it's conversations that leads to everything else. If you do not have conversations, you cannot go far, can you? Heirs may buy new homes or investment properties. Many real estate agents are also multi-licensed, allowing them to capitalize on other sales, such as insurance, mortgage. They may be a notary. They may be an investment advisor. So when we get involved with working with clients, we're learning about the totality of their estate. We're learning about not just protecting their assets, not just learning about the properties they have and their intentions on selling property or acquiring new property or learning about the beneficiaries, but you learn much more about what's important to them, and you want to be there on a timely basis. This is all about those triggering events. Families do need guidance on the estate sale process. No one better than you to be there to help them with that. Now, inherited properties equals listing opportunities. So when you're working with a family and you're guiding them down the channel of providing an estate plan through facilitation or coordination or just speaking about it, you get passed to the beneficiaries. You want to learn who they are because they'll be receiving property if it's done right. And this allows you to reach the trusted advisor level. And that's really, the most important part that any professional wants is to be in that position. There are estate planning fundamentals that you need to know. Key estate planning terms such as wills, the differences, trusts, probate, as I said, how these assets, especially real estate, can be legally transferred, the importance of understanding legal and tax implications, inheritance tax, federal, capital gains. What is boot? And what are step up and basis? How does that work? It's important also to know or have a knowledge of other investment alternatives. Not all the time does someone always want to hear someone speak about the fact that when you're ready to buy or sell real estate, give me a call, here is my card. Sometimes when you're rubbing shoulders at a party, maybe with more affluent people, it's important to know investment alternatives. Does it make sense to buy a commercial building? Or investing in a REIT, would that be more beneficial? It's good to be honest with people, but at least let them know that your education is much more broad in scope than just a real estate transaction. Learn about 1031 exchanges and Delaware statutory trusts and their rules, areas of advanced planning and their basic strategies, irrevocable trusts, offshore trusts, dynasty trusts. So by positioning yourself as a trusted advisor, you educate yourself and you educate your team, if you have one, on estate and estate plan procedures. You'll build relationships with financial planners, CPAs, estate planners, and attorneys. Now, just a quick point on that, number 2. A lot of agents have told me through the years, I need to go out and I need to go harness attorneys and grab CPAs. Well, I must say there's credit given there. However, it's a difficult path. They're very busy. They have their own client base, and they also do have their own go-to real estate professional. So it's a little bit difficult to break in, but with persistency, you can. Now, I've always said, I work hard to cultivate, to grow my client base. I work hard at doing that, and you do too. And so what you don't want to do, or at least I know I don't, is give away my clients, my prospects, to a professional who I do not have assurance on that they will not pass that client to someone else down the road. So that's the only point I'd like to make about number 2. I think that we're in a position where we can really act in many categories and maintain the relationships with our prospects and with our clients without giving up control. Now, number 3 is highlighted to provide value-added services by showing them, people, families, how to avoid major financial loss or navigating through probate. Marketing to the families, the heirs, the trustees. This is key. This is critical. This is how we market to gain traction with families who have needs. And most families have these needs. When you ask them, what have you done about any estate planning or avoiding probate or making sure your house passes and the government doesn't get involved, I assure you they will all nod their head up and down and say, I agree with you, or no, I haven't done anything. This is a wide open category that dovetails beautifully inside of a real estate business. So you could use targeted campaigns through email, social media, or direct mail. If you can, and we could show you how to do these things and hook you up, so to speak, providing webinars, seminars on subject matters. Here's one: probate and its consequences. I love that because every time property is sold, it's going to go through probate. And we need to look at ourselves and say, did we do the right thing? Are we failing to recognize and put in place an exit strategy for a family? You can offer checklists and guides for estate sales. You can offer guides for lifetime planning. You can offer guides, and there's a whole host of subjects that you should be dripping onto people that you know. Start with your warm market, people that know you, like you, trust you, and perhaps let them know that they could learn something from you that they didn't know before. A key takeaway, something that's pretty cool, is that you can provide powers of attorney documents for free as a relationship builder and a conversation starter. So our company, my company, acts as an estate administration company and provides these documents and the ability to put estate planning together from the very beginning, all through the post-servicing work that's required. But one of the greatest ways that you can get traction is to give away powers of attorney documents, or at least begin with that discussion, because families need it when they're alive, and it's not too late to put in place. Know the differences and the pitfalls of DIY or do-it-yourself estate planning. Understand how limited doing that is, how AI can really not do the work that an experienced person, a human being, can do, as that person uses their experience, their knowledge, their forecasting of the future as AI, and cannot answer all the questions that people may have in the future. So it's important to learn the DIT format of inclusion and assistance. Inclusion and assistance is really meant to say, let's hold people's hands through the process. And that is something that we do by being part of the entire estate planning process. Now, there's technology and tools for wealth transfer and leads. I don't know how many people are using technology to their fullest capability. I do know that everyone is always looking for the next shining technology gadget. I know that people are spending a lot of money on technology, but not seeing great results. So learn how to use contact relationship managers. Learn how they will help you help clients identify probate and probate avoidance. One of the easiest things to do to start is go to your tax rolls. You can access it through MLS. There's many ways in which you can identify recent homeowners and how those deeds were titled. When those deeds are titled in the personal names, their property is going through probate. Is that really what they want? We would be remiss if we didn't let them know that we're knowledgeable enough and caring enough to take care of that asset, not just because we made a sale, but because we truly care and want to make sure that their family is protected. especially when we deal with families who have children or families that have children with special needs. And those are great trigger mechanisms for us to open the door to talk about something that they didn't know before. Now, all the while, there's been additional service packages that inherited parties need assistance on, like cleaning out the estate, getting it ready for sale. This is, of course, when someone has already passed on. Realtors are able to step in and provide some legal document support in the sale. And realtors are also available for property evaluation, repairs, and staging services. Those are wonderful. If you're doing that kind of work, fantastic. And the reason it's fantastic is because you are already inside the home. You are already inside the family. And because of that, you are now in a great position to be asking questions about what people should be doing and how they feel about probate going forward for their family and their children. So there are many great ways to market your business. Estate planning, I think, is one of the not just fascinating, but it's untapped. So I leave you with some thoughts. If there's an interest in learning more, we have a team. In the chat box, you will find who they are. You will see that we have a pending estate planning course, as well as a program that you could learn about, determine whether you'd like to team up with us and have us help share education, knowledge, tools, technology, compensation on estate plans when completed, and then work with that family and that family's family through generations. So here's a quick 90-day action plan for those that are interested, if you are. Connect with 3 families that have children of any age. The child could be 30 or 40. Bring up the subject of guardianship, estate, and asset transfer. Launch one estate plan with using a focused lead magnet, maybe power of attorney documents, maybe some free guides, maybe a legacy planning kit. All of this is obtainable through us. Provide a webinar, and I'll help you host it. So giving out free material is always wonderful. It's like giving out that filet mignon steak that people have to drive to. Oh, by the way, did you know that there's a service that will provide lunch for free to webinar attendees just by attending your webinar? There's a cost for it, but I assure you that if you provided free lunch for all of the attendees, you will see a dramatic increase in your attendance roster. And you can close or sit in one estate plan completion process with us using a mock estate planning trial, either on your own self, your own life and family, or just we make one up where you can see the experiences of what legacy creation or estate planning is and how you build your knowledge through it. So some final thoughts before we open up a forum. This is a once in a generation opportunity. This wealth transfer exists for the next 20 to 30 years. We are on the ground floor integrating estate planning into real estate. Estate planning knowledge builds trust and your authority to act. One thing I'll say about this authority to act, Many times, sales professionals in general feel out of place. They may feel uncomfortable. They may feel that the timing isn't right to approach a family or approach someone, or they do not have the authority to bring up a subject matter or the authority to stay with a family beyond that initial transaction. By using estate planning, by integrating it into your marketing toolkit, you have now given yourself the authority to act on their behalf for their well-being. So you will help families and you will grow your own business vertical, a new one at the same time. See, we need to create new verticals. If we keep doing the same things we've always done, we'll always get the same result. So if you're interested in learning more, here are just some links. They're in the chat box. I want to thank you for staying with me here today and learning about estate planning, especially the great wealth transfer, because it's mind-boggling when you start to dig into people's assets and see what they exist of. Just because you're working on one transaction for one house, what you may not realize is they own a business and they own commercial property, or they have investment properties scattered across the United States. And you could be of tremendous value to them and earn a nice compensation. One person agent once told me that estate planning on a continual marketing basis is equivalent to or greater than working the rental market as a real estate agent. And I would not disagree. I thought that was a brilliant observation. So I stopped the screen share. We have some time. I'm happy to speak to anyone. We could talk about anything that's on your mind. It's good. So what's the question?
The question is, in your program, like in your estate planning course, the fundamentals, and then the program that you offer, I did set some time on your calendar for next week to kind of talk about that, because I wanted to learn more about, like, maybe some, I know you have these programs, but do you offer like maybe hybrid kind of things? Because a lot of the things you talked about, I actually have in place. But I want to join your group and learn more. I like the idea of
Here's
the estate.
Here's how it works. It's very simple. So if you ever have anyone who has questions that you could bring on to a 15-minute phone conversation, it'll be a joint call, you and I, and your prospect.
Mhm.
We will ask them
Okay.
all of their questions they have about estate planning, what's bothering them, what they are concerned about, what they want to have accomplished. We'll work with them and tell them whether or not they're a candidate for
Okay.
a revocable living trust and all of the essential documents that consist of an RLT. And then we'll tell them how we will work with them jointly by hand, and work together on a virtual screen share, populating attorney-driven questions that I didn't draw up. They're drawn up by attorneys, good in every state. And then we design. I don't design it. It's designed, though, by the client, because it's their life. It's their wishes.
Mm-hmm.
They're answering what they want to have happen with their children, with their assets, with their spouse, how they plan to transition to the next phase. Not my answers, their answers. So the first step is get them on the phone for a 15-minute conversation. And then from there, we move them through the process of a virtual screen share environment for about an hour. They get their estate completed. There is payment that they make. To do that, you do need to be part of our system. We have a couple of methods in which you can become part of our program to be able to do that. And then you're compensated on the estate plan. That compensation can be variable or it can be a fixed amount. You can choose that. So if you already have programs in place, then keep doing that. But what we provide is the heavy lifting, because that heavy lifting is not being done, and it's not being done by attorneys. It's not being done by estate planning attorneys. It's not being done by LegalZoom. It's not being done by trust and will, because they cannot perform post-plan services.
Right.
Post-plan services could take years to complete, and it's always a moving target, and it's a living, breathing form of estate planning, which means it gives us the authority to act. Again, the authority to stay with that client. See, they're not going to say no to you when they realize that you're doing something that's meaningful and beneficial for their benefit, to keep them out of trouble, keep them out of court, and keep them out of conflict, right? So it's important, and that is what post-planning services does. And we have all of that behind the scenes once they get their estate plan completed.
I love that.
It isn't just hit and run, folks. It isn't just, let's make a sale. Now we're in the squirrel cage. How are we going to find our next real estate sale? That has to change. That must change. And this is the way, one of the ways, unless you can find a different way, I'm open to listen. But listen, I already know that this method works in the financial advisor circuit. This already works with CPAs, right? Tax professionals, other forms of advisors. I'll speak for myself. It works for me. So if it works for a licensed individual, why shouldn't it work for the real estate professional? Like, who said it shouldn't?
100%. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, my man, Tony, how are you? And Tony knows I'm not great with technology. So thank you for bearing through, the bear of getting through a slide presentation. How you may take a first step, why you should take that first step. Many people stayed away from this subject because they felt that you needed to be an attorney. You do not. You do not need to be an attorney. You do not have to have a license to help people do the right thing in their lives by providing educational value and moving them along by hand-holding them with them to get things accomplished. You do need to be an attorney to practice law and to offer advice that's pertinent and specific to that person. So I'll give you an example. Somebody might say, I have a son, Johnny, and a daughter, Mary, and I described to you the case between and the relationship between and the dysfunctions between. Do you think I should be providing more for Johnny than for, Mary? Anything that's very closely tied to a personal advice can be considered UPL, or unauthorized practice of law. And so all the things that we do keep you within the guardrails and keep you safe. The clients actually sign off on recognizing our role, where we step in, what the limitations are, how far we go. Once we find out that they have an estate of $20 million, it's a handoff. It's a handoff to an attorney, because that is not the world in which we exist. That is not the kind of estate plan that's meant to be used for the masses, because the masses of people, the 80%, are the people that need what it is we provide. Revocable living trust, power of attorney package, living will, right? The advanced healthcare directives, the entire package, along with the movement and the transfer of the assets appropriately by taking a look at the assets and having an understanding of what should be included in your trust and what should not necessarily be included. What should not be included in a trust is just as important, if not more important, than what should be included in a trust. You don't need to be an attorney to understand that. You can Google it.
Yeah, I'm not techie like you either. No,
No.
I put something in the chat box because I always tell my agents, you're a realtor first, and you got to stay in that zone. You're not so, but what we've been talking about over the past year has been how to expand a business and really helping a client. Because so many of them are really, I hate to use the term ignorant, but they are. They're just unschooled into estate planning or having a trust. And I ask them that all the time. Do you have a will? And they'll say, yeah. Did you ever think of having a trust? Well, what is the difference? And I'll talk to them a little bit. I ask them questions, and then I turn it over to you. I said, listen, I got my financial planner who's really good at this stuff. If you'd like, I'll set up a meeting with him, and he can explain why it's important to have a trust. And it works. And I stay in my zone and you stay in your zone, but we work together on that basis. So it's really good. I appreciate you always having my back in that area.
Thank you, Tony. Any final thoughts before we part ways?
I want to chime in on Pamela. She said she has her network kind of built out or is continuing to build out her network. And I think that's one of the key things to this process, because most of the people, I mean, not everybody that we're going to be talking to is seniors, but that's the larger population of people that we're going to be talking to. And to have those other resources available is very important too. Then you become the hub, you become the central point of contact, and even become more deeply embedded in the family as the go-to person, as that advisor that they're looking for to help them with a number of issues that they may run into. So I think you're on the right track, Pamela.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for the seminar. First thing I'm going to do is review my estate plan and wills.
Yeah, let me give you another angle. Thank you for bringing that up. So we do perform a service. We do perform the service of reviewing a client, whoever, doesn't have to be a client, right? Could be anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Their revocable living trust, their language, and we actually can map out with a diagram. It's a well put together piece. That review is done by an attorney team. It's not done by me. We just provide the service. There's a charge for it, but for that kind of a person that says, hey, take a look at this trust, tell me the roadblocks, show me, how it exists currently, hit us up with some pointers or some identification of maybe things we should be changing or thinking about. Okay, so that current revocable trust can be the foundation to build from. Now, whether there's an amendment that's needed on the trust or whether that trust needs a restatement is determined and decided. And then you're in a better position to see whether you just need an amendment, whether a restatement is more beneficial. And then we help that client go through that process.
Okay, good.
So you could send it, if you wanted to, you could send that to me privately, and then you and I can have a discussion about it. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, yeah, no.
Or for anyone that has a trust.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have a trust personally. I just have a estate plan. But
Well, then that's a start. That's a good start. Most people don't have any plan. So if you have something, as long as it's, something that can be put in writing,
yes,
but even if it's a plan, the plan itself can only be as good as solid as the judge says it is, because
right.
without a trust, it's going through the court system.
Oh, good point. I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, everything that falls outside of that trust, if it's not named in a trust, it's going to be a probate situation unless it's a qualified plan with a beneficiary or there's a beneficiary attachment to it. If there's no beneficiary attachment, it's going through probate along with
Right.
personal assets.
Yeah, I'll go back through. I have a Fidelity account and they offer a free form that you fill out, and I'm going to redouble check it based on the information I've learned here, just to kind of look it over.
Yeah, I'd say, if they have a beneficiary, the ability for a beneficiary, please do that. Make sure the beneficiary is over 18,
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
competent, and able to handle the money.
Right. I have to review it all anyway, because some of it's been around for a very long time. So that I'm just going to use myself as an example.
Good for you. Good for you. Sorry, thanks everyone. It's a minute past. I appreciate you being here. This kind of a presentation was more specific oriented, and probably once a month I'll do something like this, change it up a bit. But for our affiliates that are with us, that are members, we still do meet every Friday. And we're going to be controlling that a lot more, so that you do need to be a member, and so that, when we're training everyone, but we need to be dedicated for those people who are really with us. So I would say look forward to once a month here on estate planning, training, insight, and then we'll go from there. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Saul.
Welcome.
I'm on,
Bye.
Saul, I'm on your calendar for next week.
Okay. No, I didn't see it. Maybe you put it on earlier. Good. I'll call.
Yeah, I look forward to speaking to you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Pamela. No problem. I'm happy to help you. Tony, thanks for sitting in. Appreciate you, buddy. I'm sure we'll talk again real soon.
Yes, we will.
All right. Take care, folks.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye now.